But do not disturb me when I'm doing my podcast thing.
Welcome to the podcast with your favorite cash flow guys, Mike and Blaine. Giving you the best advice while having a beer. When you're running a business, there are problems every day. Let Mike and Blaine help you out and guide your way. Cheers to the good times with Mike and Blaine for business, beer, and BS.
Hey, it's Mike and Blaine, episode 196. We are creeping up on the 200 episode. I'm Mike Mullen, also known as Cashflow Mike. That is my friend and my partner, Blaine Birch from Dry Run. What's up, man?
We have not done very much on that 200 yet. It's going to sneak up on us for being completely unprepared. But I do want to tell you, though, that we are going to give away something. So if you comment, like, subscribe, even we're getting texts from people even live during the show or after the show, you'll be entered to win the 200 super pack. And we don't even really know what it is yet, but we're getting something together. We'll get something together for it.
There were some good ideas came out of last week's session.
We had some good ideas.
Yeah. You're going to like it. Yeah, you're going to like it. Doesn't matter. You should get on there, like, subscribe, comment, chat, whatever you got to do, because the 200 super pack is worth it.
It's going to be worth it if it might just end up in the old garage sale later, but we'll see.
What?
Well, you never know. No, we're confident. It's going to be good stuff.
We got fans, man. They wear our gear. They buy our merch, man. I mean, they can do it right on the website, mikeandblaine.com. We got people buying stuff. We got people in hoodies and T-shirts and all kinds of stuff. It's crazy when I see it every once in a while.
Oh yeah, and you can also, this is the best part, you can buy us a beer on mikeandblaine.com. We have beer sponsors, $5 an episode, and we will talk about you, talk about your business. And we even a couple of weeks ago talked about the twofer, where you can say double up, $10 an episode. We will mention you at the start and we'll mention you in the middle, and you actually get mentioned twice. So there's always the option if you want to go all out and splurge a little bit. It's the old twofer.
The old twofer, right?
Yep.
Is that like the Florida Panthers? They went a little twofer.
I'm almost going to shut this off and end if we go there. So.
You mentioned the twofer. That's the only thing I think of.
Yeah, that we got an entire depressed city here, so we probably shouldn't go there. I'm just going to get really dark.
All right, fair enough. All right. Well, you weren't the only one that lost this week. Neighbor Pat got all the neighborhood together for a cornhole tournament right here in my driveway, and guess what? He lost again. Again. Now he's like, "Oh, you never say that I won one." Well, because it's a 2 out of 3 to win the night, right? He did win one. But he lost two.
You don't. You make it sound like he's never won a game in the last 40 years.
He's not won a night. He's not won it's not just one game. It's like a set. It's like tennis match. You know, if you win a point, doesn't mean you win the game. He cannot win. He can't win.
You make it sound like he hasn't even won like a set or whatever you like to call it in your fancy cornhole terms.
And I usually try to spot him points too. I'm like, I'll let him get like 7 up. He was up 7-0, and he still lost.
Pat, in honor of you today, Pat, because I appreciate you being our beer, one of our beer sponsors, because you brought Mike a bunch of Irish Reds over the last little while. I actually dug into my fridge and I actually found for today an Irish Red, and it's from Polyrhythm Brewing, 808 Irish Red, Polyrhythm in Edmonton. If you've not been to Polyrhythm, not only do they have good beer, they have the best hot dogs in town. We just cannot help going there. They have these gourmet hot dogs. Oh my God, they're so good. So if you want a hot dog, you got to go to Polyrhythm.
All right. So here's something good about Pat with a great story attached to it, right? He brought me from Omaha, Nebraska. He went up there a couple weeks ago. He brought this beer called Clyde's. It's called Clyde's Caramel Cream, right? From Burr Oak, right there. I guess it's in Omaha. And because I have a daughter that lives in Omaha, I text her. I say, "Hey, you ever heard of Burr Oak and Clyde's?" She goes, "Heck yeah, that's my favorite place. We go there all the time." And then she sends me a picture because Clyde, you see this cat on the front of it?
Yep.
Clyde is actually the cat who kind of lives in the brewery.
Nice.
And there's a picture that they use on the brewery, right? They use this picture of Clyde the cat. And so she sent me the picture that the brewery uses. We'll post it on Facebook because it's fun, right?
Nice.
So Burr Oak Brewery, I'm having Clyde's, and I've got to tell you, he snuck one down earlier this week. Fantastic beer. This is a fantastic beer, my man. Thanks, Pat.
Good stuff. So Pat, Mike's being a little nicer now that you're giving him beer. And so Pat is one of our beer sponsors. We actually have 5 beer sponsors right now. So again, if you guys want to be a beer sponsor, just buy us a beer. You can even show up at my house and just give me beer or Mike's, and you'll be a beer sponsor. But we also have Rachel Burnett from Gentle Frog. She is a sponsor through to the end of the year. If you have a business and you have to know how to use QBO, which you likely are using QBO, you got to go to gentlefrog.com, or better yet, go to YouTube /@gentlefrog, and you'll see a ton of videos on how to use QBO, and she will show you exactly what you need to do to get your business under control.
Right on. And we got Karen Harrison up in Michigan for the 3smartconsulting.com. If you want any cash flow help, if your business is struggling, if it feels clunky, you got to contact Karen, especially if you're up there in Michigan, because she can help you out. Now, cool story about Karen. She actually texted me this week. She's speaking at the national conference for the SBDC, the Small Business Development Centers. So am I. So we're going to be there at the same time in Orlando in September. And she goes, "Oh my God, you have a booth?" Yeah, I'm a sponsor, right? I'm an SBD sponsor. I've got a booth. She goes, "I'm going to come work the booth." So Karen and I will be side by side in a booth in Orlando coming up. So, hey, if you're in Orlando or you're an SBDC advisor, stop by, say hi at the booth, and meet Karen personally.
Nice. And yourself, you got to meet Cashflow Mike.
Oh, there you go.
And Larry Weinstein, if you are in Houston, or actually probably doesn't matter where you are, but he's the best CPA in Houston, Larry Weinstein, the Cashflow Cowboy. If you're looking for a CPA, got to check out Larry. And he is also a sponsor all the way through to the end of 25. So everyone's kind of keeps coming back.
Yeah. So then we got Devin. Devin out in Louisiana, right? Louisiana, they're getting a heck of a storm right now. I mean, just absolutely pounded with it. But we are so close to 2 different things. LSU went to the finals, right, in the College World Series. They won it a couple years ago. They've won it 6 times, as a matter of fact. I mean, this is a championship machine. They're going back to the finals. So they're playing Coastal Carolina, right, which is a surprise team, but they've got some pitchers that nobody can touch. So this is going to be kind of an interesting College World Series. So Devin, I know we talk football mainly, but you got LSU in the College World Series championship this weekend. So good luck, LSU. Go Tigers.
Wow. I had no idea they played volleyball in June, but who knew?
What? What? That is Nebraska. Hey, did you ever see that? No, because Nebraska, the University of Nebraska has one hell of a volleyball team, and they.
Oh, well, there we go.
I think it was like in the last few years they actually played at the football stadium and packed the stadium for a volleyball match. It's like, wow. I think it's the largest recorded attendance for a college volleyball match in history. They did it at the football. I mean, they are so behind this team. They're so awesome that they can put a football stadium for a volleyball match.
It would be a little weird though. Like you literally have like a little itty bitty right in the middle of the football field, and then just all the space around, I'm guessing, and then way up in the stands.
Yeah, but think about it. People do it for concerts, right? You got one guy with a microphone in the middle of the football field or the end of the football field, and I guess you just see him on the screens. But you're there in the atmosphere.
Yeah, I just don't go to those. I like going somewhere where I can, actually see the person I want to listen to. So I've been to a lot of stadium ones. They never seem quite as good when you're going to a concert in a big, giant open stadium.
I don't know. You haven't seen Kenny Chesney then, because he's fantastic in a stadium.
Yeah, I don't know. I've seen a lot of stadium shows, but I've seen the Stones, seen U2 a few times, seen Pink Floyd a few times. This is aging me a little bit, but yeah, I've seen a bunch of those stadium shows. I don't know. They're just never quite the same as a nice little cool little bar or something like that with a live band. Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So the music ages you, not the gray beard.
It's probably a little of both.
All right, just making sure. So, hey, so here's the thing. This we haven't even talked about the topic. Usually we talk like kind of introduce it, kind of tease it.
I forgot.
A little
I
bit.
usually do that. Yeah, I totally forgot.
So here's the thing. I think business plans for most people are dead. I'm making that bold assumption, right? I mean, people always tell you can't start a business without a business plan. I'm calling BS on that. I think you can. And the tool that I've used, the tool I point people to, is this thing called a lean business model canvas. And I kind of want to, I don't know if you got any experience with it or not, but I have a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people come to me for advice like this, and I just kind of put it through this screening tool of the lean business model canvas, just to see if there's a business there at all.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. Some organizations, banks and such, I think they still ask for business plans, and it's just a colossal waste of time. Now, it does not mean you start a business without a plan. It's a formal business plan that comes in the same templated structure that they did 50 years ago. I struggle with, and I agree with you. It's like, first off, start with this lean model. See if there's something there, because it's still, before you start trying to write out this massive amount of stuff, it's a great way to get to find gaps, find problems, find opportunities, and do it really rapidly. But then I find that the actual business plan is the best way to build out a plan. I think is to have more of it's not even a living document. It's a living bunch of pockets. So you're constantly evolving your business, but it's got to be more organized and more actionable, because what a traditional business plan would be written and then thrown in a file folder and never looked at again. You can't run without a plan. You can't run without some forethought, but I think it's got to be just this living organism that's constantly evolving, and it's the right stuff in the right place, not just one big giant document.
Yeah, two things about that, what you just said. I mean, the first, right, I want to make a disclaimer up front. I did say business plans are dead, but there's a purpose for the actual formal business plan, right? And that is if I'm going to raise money, or ask for money for the bank. Somebody wants to see how you thought through the process. If you're doing something really complex, you probably should have a formal plan. If you're wanting to scale massively quick, you probably should have a formal plan, right? Something that's really capital intensive. So that's where that should be. But most of us is just like going, hey, I've got this idea. I'm going to try to get it off the ground. Or I've got this small business thing that maybe I'm taking it over from my dad, or, whatever that is. Most of us don't need that full thing. So that's my disclaimer up front. I
agree with you. But I still struggle with the time wastage on that. Like, okay, for example, a bank wants a giant, big, thick business plan. I don't even know if they read the bloody thing. Investors rarely seem to want a business plan. What they do want is they want a pitch deck. So again, it's not much more than this lean canvas. Let's get these ideas out quick. We can see if there's gaps, there's problems. And then they generally have a data room. And the data room is generally built on, it seems to cover all the stuff that's in a business plan, but it's in little chunks, and it tends to be grabbable from the stuff you're already doing to run your business, and you get to put it together, and it's all working documents and actionable stuff. Trying to get it into a book, I find that is where the waste of time comes in, because you're just trying to compile all this data rather than just giving somebody the data that you have, right?
Yeah. So the second point I wanted to make on that was the living document thing, right? Because I'm going to read it. I pulled it up when you said that. Yeah. Steve Jobs said this. He says, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in the future. And this is what I mean by that, or this is what I think he means. This is I can't ask him, of course, but this is what I think he means, is that, when you have your plan, it's just a plan, and your business at the end when you retire, you sell it or whatever, may not be the same as what you planned, right? Because it's the living document. It changes over time. So, and one of the cases and points, that I see happening right now in my business at Cashflow Mike, is I got bookkeepers that are saying, hey, yeah, I've got bookkeeping clients, but they're asking me for this cash flow stuff, right? So they're adding that to it. What happens if your cash flow advisory service becomes the main effort, becomes the thing that makes you the most money? Are you still a bookkeeping service, or are you a cash flow advisory service with bookkeeping?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. So,
and it can evolve even further than that. And I've seen that, as you talk with business people, it's amazing how much it's just all opportunity. Entrepreneurs see opportunity, they tend to follow it. It is, it is so rare that there'll be a business that'll start in one place and be the same place 5 years after the fact. Like it's absolute, that's the true unicorn, is a business that hasn't changed. And to take the time to try and keep up a formal document, that's pretty rough. Although today you could probably just ask the old Chelsea there and just say, a little chat GPT there and just write out a business plan. And it probably write something that the banker would go, yeah, okay, that sounds good. There you go.
Yeah, but all right. So if you use chat GPT to write your business plan, will you know what the plan is? Will you even know what the plan is? Will you read your own plan?
No, because you're not following it. You're like, what you could do is you could maybe take like almost like that data room and feed it in and go, okay, can you put this into a document that a banker likes? Because you have to have the information. Definitely not saying don't run without a plan. Run with actionable living document that is constantly evolving and is useful to you, useful to your team, and part of the infrastructure of your business, not a document that sits in a folder somewhere and never gets used again. Yeah.
So let's talk about where it starts. And the statement I made in the description was, if you can't describe it on the back of a napkin, do you really even have a strategy or a plan? And I got that from my dad, right? My dad is the one that says I even use it in my seminars, the bar napkin method of teaching. I mean, he taught me fracking, on the back of an envelope. Right? Here's what they're doing in fracking. I'm like, oh, no shit, that's all it is. So, okay, that didn't sound so bad. Pushing water in there, breaking up the rock. I mean, getting the oil out of it. I get it. Okay. So but I didn't know that he had this uncanny ability to take complex ideas and boil them down to something on the back of the napkin. And I said, well, who else did that? Southwest Airlines, right? The original idea for Southwest Airlines was on a napkin in a restaurant here in San Antonio, where the guys that founded the airline says, man, we just need an airline that can just go to these 3 points. And he drew a triangle from Dallas to San Antonio to Houston, and it was a point-to-point service. And that's, if we had that, because it's a 4 or 5 hour drive to 3 to 5 hour drive to all of this stuff. Like, that's how Southwest Airlines started. Uber started the same way. A couple guys talking, like going, it'd be great if we could just call a taxi or whatever on our phone. And they're sitting in Paris when they did it. So, and they drew it on the back of the napkin. That's one that hasn't changed, right? You talk about unicorn, it is a unicorn. That original idea of we want to be able to call a car from our phone is all they were doing.
Well, I imagine it's changed dramatically from that. Like there's an idea back of a napkin idea, but a business plan is how you're executing that idea. And that's where a lot of detail comes in. And those details are what are changing all the time. Like the idea that you're using your own car, but then it's like, well, now how do we put standards on the car? And then how do we compensate them? And do they get tip? And like all of these things that evolve, you would just be constantly day by day going back into this plan. It's like, you're just, your materials are what's important.
Yeah. So, and I think I might not have, but I thought I said, hey, this is how you should start. You should be able to start on the back of a napkin.
Yeah.
But then there's 4 different things that you have to go through. And I think you alluded to most of them right there. One is, hey, what are you going to sell? Right. Mm-hmm. Who are you going to sell it to? Right. Is the second one. How are you going to do it? Right. How are you going to deliver it? That's basically what you're talking about. And then how are you going to make a profit on it? Those are the 4 main components of the lean business model. Right. Now there's like 8 or 10 boxes, right? You got like key activities, key resources, partners, suppliers, customer segments, channels, relationships, how you're going to connect with them, users, who's the economic buyer or decision maker, cost, revenue. I mean, there's all these boxes that we can kind of go through. But all in all, those are the 4 questions you're answering. So if you get anything out of this podcast, answer those 4 questions, right? Who you selling to? What are you selling them? How are you going to deliver on your promise? And then how are you going to make money on it? Mm-hmm. So, but it gets a little bit deeper. It makes you think a little bit more strategically about it. So.
Yeah, there's fundamental questions that too often go missed when someone starts a business. And it usually is the numbers. It's like, how many businesses that have failed when they said, well, I'm going to open up a restaurant and I'm going to have 10 tables, and I'm going to be open for 18 hours a day, and those 10 tables will always be full, and it's going to be 180 customers, and they're all going to buy wine, and they're all going to buy a meal, and it's like, yeah, I'm going to make 80 grand a day. Like, it's just there has to be some realism brought in. I think that's where some of these models help bring in some realism into it, so that it's not just best case scenario and magic beans, right?
Well, I had a friend in St. Louis that misjudged the whole thing just like that. He says, well, Starbucks did it, I should be able to do it, right? So he builds this coffee shop. He goes, if I give people free Wi-Fi, they're going to want coffee and free Wi-Fi, right? And they'll come in and they'll do their work, because he'd seen it on TV. He'd seen Starbucks doing it. And this is 10, 15 years ago. Yeah. What he didn't understand about his customer was they really didn't want the coffee. They wanted free Wi-Fi, and they wanted a quiet place. Yeah. Coffee, not so much. So then he has these leases on these massive coffee machines where people are just buying an occasional, he's making $100 a day. So, I mean, just absolutely nothing in sales, but people are sitting in there using this free Wi-Fi and soaking it up, because that's what happened. That's what he allowed people to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure how Starbucks managed to unlock that, because that's the chronic issue with a model like that. Like, again, you're assuming, okay, we have 300 people come in and we're going to average 4 cups of coffee each, and half are going to buy a muffin. It just doesn't work out that way.
Yeah. I mean, it's not like Airbnb, right? I've brought them up 100 times on this show, right? Because it was so amazing that they just had no rooms available for less than $1,000 in San Francisco for this massive conference. And so they rented out their own place with an air mattress.
Yeah.
And from there, it spurred out to, what if we just took a cut of everybody that did this? You rent out your place, you own the place, you maintain the place and all that, and I take a little cut for this website we built. Yeah. So it scaled massively because they had no infrastructure that they had to really support, outside of a website, a common place for people to do that. Yeah. So, yeah, the story, when I talk about the back of the napkin, all right, so everybody knows McDonald's, kind of their story about operations and systems and all that. What about In-N-Out? In-N-Out was one that I looked up not too long ago. I'm like going, what made them a thing, really? I mean, what made them, important? Because I don't think it's a simplistic menu, but I was like going, why is it that they got such a cult following, and how did they get known to begin with? Right, because it's no different than Steak and Shake or A&W root beer and all these other ones. I'm like, going, what was it? Well, when I was researching In-N-Out, and that's just one of those rabbit hole things. You ever do that? You just kind of like, oh, what the hell is special about In-N-Out? Yeah. What I found is that they had sketched out the idea for drive-through service with a two-way radio, meaning that you could place an order from your car and talk to the person inside and then take the order that way. So what we think is just normal today, they're the originators of it. And I think it was somewhere back in the 40s. I mean, it was like crazy long time ago, right? So where this happened, this two-way radio type thing. But I don't think it got 40. That sounds way too long ago. Let me see if I can't find it. Can we ask Chelsea when that was?
Yeah, she may or may not be right. I'm going to say 1952.
No, it was in the 1940s in Southern California.
Oh, there you go. I just was guessing just for the hell of it.
Yeah, so that's what it was. Yeah, so he is the creator, I guess, of the two-way speaker box drive-through. He just outlined it on a piece of paper at home, and it became the modern drive-through.
Okay, so what I find fascinating is think of how many other fast food chains have come and gone in that time, and how many of them are constantly trying to evolve, trying to change, trying to stay relevant. And these guys are exactly the same. It just was such a simple idea. It's just like, we're going to have such a simple menu that you can basically remember the entire menu. And I think there's just quality. Like, yeah, the fries are from an actual potato. Like, it seems so simple, but it's like, what do people value? It's like simplicity, quality. Done.
Yeah, I'm sure they took some of the McDonald's lessons learned over the history. And say, oh, we can do it faster, we can do it better, we can move this line along. Oh, excuse me. So they did all that, but even a structured chain like this, right? Even today, and I'm thinking in the last 10, maybe 15 years, KFC made a fatal error, right? They changed. This is about the delivery. They changed delivery services. I think they went from like FedEx to DHL to deliver chicken out to, because all those major franchises have central distribution, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting the same product, in California, that you are out in, New York.
Yeah.
Well, they changed and DHL dropped the ball. Right. And it delayed shipments to about 800 stores across the country where they didn't have any chicken. I mean, think about going to KFC, get some chicken. You don't have it because the main headquarters changed the delivery system and didn't have a good transition plan in place. Is that crazy?
No.
I mean, so even if you're not a brand new business, you have to think through these same components. Who's your key? That's a key partner, right? A key partner is somebody you rely on to deliver part of your service.
Yeah. Okay. So now this almost flips a little bit on the other side. Is that idea was a simple idea? That's back of napkin stuff right there. That is, let's just change. We'll save some money. Or there's some simple reason. It's just so simple. We're going to save some money. We'll change from this to this. And what they were missing were the details on the execution side and the analysis that had to be done, which is probably kind of the stuff that they should have been really on top of. That usually probably goes into a business plan, but it's not the best place to kind of put it. Okay, so so Patrick, a gas station in Omaha and a brewery is in Columbus, Missouri.
Oh, Columbia, Missouri. Is that the one I messed up? He goes, oh, you messed up. That's Pat. That's neighbor Pat.
Oh, Patrick. Hey, Pat, change your name to Pat, not Patrick.
Totally, and it was my other daughter. You know what's funny is I've made that mistake twice. Oh, by the way, it is June 19th. My youngest daughter in Omaha, it's her birthday. So happy 25th birthday to Rory over in Omaha.
Happy birthday.
In case she listens. I doubt if she ever listens.
Why
would you? Why would you?
Probably not. You can let her know that she had a call out on the show.
Yeah, there you go. Talk about losers. Yeah, we're losers. I'm the loser when I tell a story. I'm the loser when I tell the stories, right? But if you never want to lose and you want to do analysis right the first time, you need to contact the guys over at Dry Run because their analysis is spot on. Their ability to gather large amounts of data and make sense of it is bar none the best on the planet. So if you want to know more about Dry Run, I'm going to turn it over to the guy that can tell you everything you need to know about compiling data and making scenario modeling and put more cash in your pocket.
I was going to let you keep going, but I'll tell you what. If
That was pretty good. That was pretty good.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. If you're a CFO and you're trying to figure out your cash flow, figure out where your finances are headed for your business, come and talk with us at Dry Run, because we will take all that complicated, messy data. We're going to get it into Dry Run. We're going to let you organize it however you want, simplify it, and send a simple message out the other side so that when you walk into the management meeting, it's a little closer to that back and napkin plan. You can show something that's really clear to the CEO and to the management team, but it's got all the foundation underneath. So you're not doing the old DHL switcheroo problem. You're making sure that you've done all your homework and you got all your I's dotted, your T's crossed before you walk into that management meeting. So come and see us at dryrun.com. We'll help you get out of those spreadsheets and onto something that's modern, fast, and super clear.
And it works with everything from manufacturing companies to fiddle hoppers. It doesn't matter. If you have it, they can work with it.
That was a stretch, but we'll take it.
It was a stretch. I thought it was a good. I thought it was a good one. All right, fair enough.
Messy secret word.
All right, so there are three big components of this lean business model to me that you have to nail. And my three are probably different than yours, right? So my first one is your value proposition, which is, what is the promise you're delivering to the customer? And then why should I get it from you? Right? That's a value proposition to me, right? So, I do this and you should get it from me because of this. The next two are key activities and key resources. Those are the next two boxes that I think are really important, because if you don't have anything in those boxes, meaning if you don't have them, you don't have a business. Think about like a lemonade stand, right? Even a lemonade stand. What are some key resources you need? Well, if I don't have lemons, I don't have a lemonade stand. If I don't have sugar, I don't have a lemonade stand. If I don't have, on and on down the list, then you got key activities. If I don't have a location, if I don't have, a way to get water, if I don't have the means to combine all this, if I, all these activities, I have to line those up. Maybe I need help because I can't man this thing all day, every day, however long I want to do it. So those are the minimum requirements to have a business. And if you miss that, something about your business is going to fail immediately. That's the lens I kind of look through when people show me ideas.
Yeah, the one that the thing I would add to that I think is incredibly important is market access. In other words, you can have the best laid plan. You can say, man, I got okay, this is how you sneak something in. It's like, I got the best fiddle hopper on the planet. And there you go. And I've figured this out, and I can build it, and I can do a lot. Can you get the market to come and buy from you? And so sometimes, like when you're talking about location, it's like the biggest part of the location is, is your market there, or will they come to you? If you're online, can you get to them? Can you attract them? Because you can have the best product and you've got everything else figured out. And, it's the chronic, if I build it, they'll come sort of model that doesn't work. So how do you get the market? How do you get that activity? How do you get them coming to you? It's hard. It's hard, right?
Yeah, and part of it is having something you can protect, right? A unique selling proposition that somebody can't copy and go, oh, I can do that. And they get it out faster and they get it out farther than you could, right? I mean, because I think that's what Intuit does to some smaller companies all the time, right? I think they'll take a good idea and they go, oh, well, we could just do that in our in QuickBooks, right? And they'll build it, and whatever you have some success with, they'll take that idea and put it into QuickBooks, and you're kind of out, because they're not going to do it better than you, but they're going to do it faster and more widely dispersed.
Yeah. But there's, think about how many online accounting systems have been around in the last probably 15 years. Everyone knows Intuit. Everyone knows QuickBooks. How did they get the market? Like, did they know accounting better than the other 1,000 products? Like, those are the things that you really have to also figure out, right? Like, how do you get hold of a market and because there could be products out there that could have been 10 times better and they failed.
Yeah, but I think their first big strategic move was all right. So they were doing QuickBooks accounting, but then they add this thing TurboTax, and then I think they did Mint or some other type of regular type of personal finance. All of a sudden, I'm not just business accounting. I'm combining it with my personal finance and my tax return all in one, right? And once you do that, you're cutting out a lot of other people, right? Because you're taking
Yeah.
your personal, your business, and your tax return all in one spot.
Yeah, but I will say, like, could QBO, was there something in, like, let's say TurboTax that they couldn't do with their engineering team? In
Was
other
there
words,
something they can do?
like,
I mean,
in other words, what I'm saying is it's I think it's the same thing as when H&R Block bought Wave. Well, they maybe aren't as much in software, but I think a big part of those acquisitions is literally um, buying the client list and being able to use that client list and expand and sell them more product from what you have. So was it a, because it's easy to think, well, they bought it was a technology purchase. It probably was definitely a blend at least, but it could have actually weighed even heavier on um, the customer acquisition, like the access to the market could have actually been a bigger part of buying Mint than the technology, or buying TurboTax than the technology.
yeah, the customer list definitely has a lot of value, right? I mean, when I see that they paid $340 million for T-Sheets. T-Sheets is a timekeeping app, right?
It's
They
not
could have,
technology.
but they could have built that into QuickBooks. They didn't have. I mean,
Exactly.
they were buying the leadership, and they were buying, the assets of. They had a couple nice buildings. They had a bunch of great employees that knew that stuff, and they had feverish. I'm talking about just rabid fans.
Brand.
People love that brand.
Yeah, they were buying brand and client lists that they could expand by selling them into QuickBooks. I think it had way more to do with it than the actual technology. The technology, I think, was, I don't even know if it'd be secondary. It was maybe in third or fourth down the list of what they were buying. Um, and then there's also like a revenue component, but it's Intuit. They don't care about the revenue. It's not the revenue from T-Sheets. It's the potential revenue from T-Sheets, from the market they're buying. They're getting access. They're getting market access to this group, and it's a shortcut to get to them, right? And that's what I keep saying, is that market access is so incredibly important. We've seen a million times, like, a really great restaurant fail because it was in a crappy location, because people wouldn't drive to it because they didn't have the market access. You could have an okay restaurant, but it's in a really good location with a bunch of other restaurants around, and it's like a magnet for everybody to come to the area. And they survive, and so it's just another component that has to be really thought out. So in other words, don't pull a Phoenix Coyotes and go, hey, we got a good deal. Let's put the arena out in the middle of nowhere, away from your market, because it cost them, like, literally cost them their hockey team. It's that's something you really have to consider. And it's so important that see other things like, yeah, we got a good deal over here, or we got a cut rate price over here, or we got I got rent and it's so cheap. But if they don't come to you, you'll never make it. Some businesses, though, are a destination business. People will come to you. So in that case, it's the opposite. Don't spend too much on the location, because they'll come to you. You can cut costs. So this is where the planning part comes into it. There's not a one size fits all. You have to figure out what works for you, and how do you get access to that market, and how are they going to come to you and buy from you?
Well, or you have a business like Elon Musk, where you got SpaceX, where you could just pretty much create your own town, right? And people will go there because they want to work there, right? So that's a destination business in a different manner. Yeah, that's way
create your own town, or take over a town. I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. Kind of what he's pulling off there. So,
Oh, really? I thought he was trying to get his area that he purchased a bunch of real estate. And he's trying to incorporate it.
oh, I just had read an article. You guys could look it up because I don't remember all the details, but I know that he was basically kicking people out of their houses so he could make it into other stuff because he'd literally bought the town and could then, and he had so many staff from SpaceX that he could basically put it. He had the voting power and they put him on town council and everything to just kind of decide to do whatever he wants to do. And he was like, they could change the laws on, yeah, we're buying your house for whatever we want and you're going to leave. And so it was something like that. You find the article and find the story. I was a little bit like,
I hadn't heard that.
That was a little sketchy. I thought people. Yeah. So I read an article a couple of weeks ago, but I can't remember exact details, but it was a little bit like, I don't know. It sounded not quite on the, sound a little not great to me, to be honest. But.
All right. Well, so back to the canvas. There's two other things that I separate out because I think they're important to acknowledge. Like, who is really the economic buyer and who is the user or the end user, right? Because you know as well as I do, sometimes you have to get approval from a CFO. Like, I mean, Courtney and what they do with these colleges, the faculty and staff and students are the users of the books or the digital products. But you got to get the president and CFO and that whole organization bought into the buying decision. So you've really got to identify who's really making the decision to make the purchase because you got to speak to them.
Yep.
But then you also got to build your service or your product to the person who has to use it.
Yeah. And you still want them involved in the decision early as much as you can, because they're going to be a heavy influencer on the decision, but you can never get past the economic buyer, the ultimate decision maker, whoever that is. So you go into a deal and you just kind of need to know. We used to go into these deals and you just always be looking at it going, okay, who all's in the chain? Who all's involved? You need to know, and you need to get buy-in from everybody. Sometimes it's a small amount of buy-in. Sometimes it's like the entire deal could ride on it.
Yeah, see, when Dry Run moved up market, you went from, hey, I'm talking to the decision maker and the user. You're actually, I think, now maybe you're talking to the CFO, but he might have a team that's actually going to use this, right, and prepare all the reports. So I think you're in that position where that's a business model shift, where in your original canvas, your original business plan, you didn't think about it that way.
Yeah, no, it's very different. The whole sales process has changed. There's a lot of factors that we have to look at that we didn't necessarily have to look at before. There's always multiple stakeholders, which makes it obviously more of a challenge. But then on the flip side, there's a lot of benefits to it as well. So, yeah.
So when you were talking about market access, I always think about that in terms of like channels. Like, where is my customer at? Where are they? Where are they located? How am I going to get to them? Right. So not everybody, matter of fact, most of us might not have that market access. So, I mean, what are some ways we can get some attention? I mean, in your mind, I mean, how did you do it? Right? Because you didn't have a lot of market access. You weren't a known commodity, coming out of advertising, going into finance. How'd you do that?
Wasn't the smartest thing. No, but there's that's a really big loaded question because it's a very, 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 very complicated question. Like for our business, like just to put it into two buckets, I'm looking at outbound and inbound. What can we do on an inbound to attract people, which is kind of like the marketing side, SEO, advertising, whatever, to draw people in. And outbound, how do we target and get to people so we can be very proactive and get to these leads? But one of the biggest challenges, and this is one of the things that I think happens on your sort of business modeling canvas, is this is where it's likely to change. It's rare, again, that what you plan is what actually happens. And so as you start testing the market, and this is where I really encourage you strongly to not just get into, this is our market, this is the only people we go after. test, focus in the areas that you think are most important, but make sure you get outside of them and test and make sure that is the market. Because we've been guilty of that and found out we went after a market. Turns out it wasn't the right market. We had to do a pretty massive pivot and a pivot up market, like we've talked about on the show a number of times. And so that's where something becomes very fluid. So like if I look at like the business plan I had to send to whoever it was, a couple of years ago or whatever, there's probably barely a line in there that's useful anymore because everything has changed. Right. And we have all this planning and systems and everything in place. We never put it into a document. It's not worth the time.
Hey, are you good at interpreting emojis? Because we got a comment from Rick
Yes.
over in Arizona. So that's either a piece on a flat earth or it's two squares. Which one is it?
I've had that in the back of my mind for about 5 minutes trying to figure out what the heck that means. Rick, I think it's probably two squares, to be honest.
You guys are too square. So yeah. Thanks, Rick. You're taken out of the 2 Super PAC drawing.
Oh, hey, that's kind of fun. That's okay. So everybody get into the 2 Super PAC drawing, but you can also be taken out. Mike's change the rules.
Okay, no, we won't do.
You get 2 votes if you're complimentary.
All right. I probably won't do that, but
okay. So Rick, you're still in, but if you're complimentary, you get 2 votes. And if you buy us a beer, you get 10.
Whoa.
Hey,
see,
there you go.
Wait a second. We might be violating the law if you do that. Because it's supposed to be like no purchase to win or thing like that. You might be violating law. I can't let you do that.
Okay. So we're okay. We're not doing any of that. I don't know. Violating the law with our 2 Super PAC that we don't even know what it is.
It might just be a compliment.
Okay.
You might just get a compliment from us.
Everybody that does their whole thing, we'll put you in a hat and we'll draw it out. And that's just what you get. And someone will win and someone won't. And then you'll get whatever we've come up with. So
that's funny. So market access, we went through market access. We went through, hopefully we know who our customer is, right? What about the relationship, right? So this is how we're going to attract and retain. I'm going to say retain is more important sometimes than attract. What do you think?
Well, there's retain and like our topic last week, upsell. Can you make somebody, not necessarily upsell, but can you make someone a repeat customer? Sometimes it's expanded customer. You only need to retain the customer if they're literally buying from you again, right? Like in the reasonable amount of time. But incredibly important. And again, like these things go into your plan and it's easy to say, well, everyone's going to come back and they're going to come back to my restaurant 3 times a week. And it's like, most people won't do that. Right. So, it's the one thing I think that you may want to consider when you're doing these, you do a business plan like that, maybe do 3 of them. Do a canvas. Just, it's a 1-pager. It's a 1-pager. Do 3. Best, worst, and likely. Do your best and worst first. And then come up with what's likely. Because I think what happens with a lot of them is they go to best case scenario and they never go past that. And it's never going to be like that.
Well, yeah, it's hard after you're like, why would I give up $1 million? When for 300,000? Well, because it's most likely. That's probably what's going to happen. That's funny. So when I think about, retention that way, when I'm thinking about retention, that's the biggest thing to me because like I'm in a subscription-based model. And if you look at history now, used to be there wasn't that much history that we could look at, but now there is. That in the beginning of your business, almost 100% of your customers are new. But every month, that percentage proportionality changes, right? And then in mature companies with subscription models, only about 30% of their revenue comes from new customers. 70% of it's coming from recurring subscriptions. So where should I spend the time? With the people that are still there, right? The ones that are continuing to pay you to provide a service. So I think that's where the mentality shifts from gaining new customers to keeping old customers.
It should, but the fact is, and they'll say it all the time, getting new customers is infinitely harder. Not infinitely, they have actually numbers. Is so much harder than retaining the customers you have. So that even if it's 70-30, it's not 70% of your time keeping your customers and 30% trying to get new ones, because you won't get those new ones then. It's really hard to acquire new customers. Where I see this absolutely broken is cable companies and cell phone companies it's a turnstile of people leaving.
Going to somebody else,
and these are subscriptions. And you wonder, why don't they try harder to keep their customers? Because it's hard to get the new customers. They have to do deep discounts and everything to try and attract a customer. And when the discounts are done, they leave and go somewhere else. And I wonder how little effort it would take to actually keep some of those customers.
Yeah, some of them used to try to match it, like we'll just keep you at your current, right? If you're going to switch, what if we didn't change anything and they would just keep it, right? That's what it used to be. Yeah. I don't think they try that hard anymore. I think they're like, hey, that's just the nature of it. And they probably just call it churn, and they build into their financial models that we're going to lose 15% a year or whatever that is, right? Because not everybody leaves. Like I haven't changed cell phone companies in a few years now, 5-10 years now. Because it's a pain in the ass. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But I'll cancel HBO until the next, billions or something like that comes.
Something makes worthwhile.
Make something worthwhile where I want to pay for it again.
Yeah. And I do change cell phone companies generally every few years because they do so little to attract me. And the new ones will be like, here's a free iPhone 15. The last one was like an iPhone 15 and you're getting it for almost nothing. And they'll bend over backwards to try and get you. And like, yeah, okay, I'll save money and get a new phone. Yes. Okay. You got me. Right.
All right. So I think cable subscriptions are coming back full circle, right? To address this problem of people leaving, because what we're used to now is I can go through a whole season in a week. So if you post a whole season, I can go through it in a week and then cancel my subscription and not pay you next month until there's something else I want to see. Mm-hmm. Well, they're starting to release on a weekly basis now. Yeah. So now you got to wait till it's already over. So if you get invested in the first one, then I got to wait a week for the second one. Then I got to wait a week. So they're keeping you there through the delayed drip content, approach.
Well, and you know what? I think truthfully, I bet you it takes 3 episodes to get hooked. And the reason I'll say that is because Disney is with a lot of their shows, they seem to release the first. I'm pretty sure it's the first, or maybe it's 2. It's more than one. It's always more than one. I think it's usually 3. They'll do the first 3 episodes on the same night, and then they come out once a week. I'm because I think they found that if the people aren't getting hooked enough after 1 episode, but after 2 or 3 or what, they're probably testing this and knowing this is exactly when people get hooked enough to stick with it. And then we can roll it out once a week and they'll come back and watch.
Yeah, because I've also seen them give the first one free. The second one, you got to subscribe or whatever to their channel.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure if that works as well, to be honest, but I wonder if they did 2 or 3. That might start to be the norm, just because I think there's a place in there where it's easy to forget and not get hooked after a single episode. It just takes a little bit to get into a series, right?
Yeah, sometimes. I mean, sometimes I'm hooked right off the bat, right? I mean, the ones I hate are the ones that everybody's telling me about. Says, "Oh, you just have to get through episode 5, and then it gets better." I'm like going, yeah, but it sucks for 5 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes I think, people that are, well, I was going to try to force one in. I won't do it. I'll let you try to force it in. But what I learned today, here's what I learned today, that I think that the basic business owner, just the regular person, which is 28 million of us, we'll say 28 million people out there running their business, you can get away with a lean business model canvas. If you haven't seen it, go download it. It's easy enough to use. Any of us can use it. And it's dynamic and it's living, where I can keep it updated as the market changes, as my idea changes. I can change that without having to go through 70 pages of a business plan to make a change.
Yeah, like it's really useful, especially when you're planning to start a business, to take an honest look at what you need to do. But it also is a good little model to go, here are the sections you have to pay attention to, and you have to start building systems and processes for each one of those to keep the business going, to get that market access, to truly understand your customer, to figure out your pricing, to figure out your sales. All like they're all going to have these little actual execution side stuff that you need to really stay on top of. And it's a good guide for that.
All right. Hey, 196 in the books. We are 4 episodes away from number 200, the 200 Super PAC. Yes. Get yours. You can still get it. Even though this live episode is over, you can still comment. You can still like. You can still subscribe. You can tell a friend and then tell me that you told a friend. You can post on our Facebook page and say, hey, check this out because it's dumb. We love dumb stuff. Do it.
You can even text Mike and I directly on our phones, and you'll be added to the hat, and everyone gets one vote. One boring vote for their like, subscribe, follow, comment. And then we will come up with something. Last year we had a picture of all the stuff we were giving away. We were promoting it ahead of time. And this year it's been like, I'll come up with something, but it'll be fun. It'll be fun.
You're going to love it. All right. So, hey, 196 in the books. I'm Mike Mylan. That is Blaine Birch. We'll see you next time.
Check out their website at mikeandblaine.com. Then subscribe to the podcast and buy these guys a beer.